Good morning and welcome to the UKAA webinar, 1st of June. We'll just wait a moment for more attendees to join us and then we'll kick off. Good morning again. See, we've got a number of people joining us now. As I say, we'll just wait a minute until we've got lots of participants on and then we'll kick off. Okay, I think we'll make a start. Good morning, everybody. My name is Dave Butler from the UKAA, as most of you know, and you can read on my screen. Welcome to today's webinar. Today we're looking again at the really interesting topic and one that's very popular. What's happening with exercise and nutrition during lockdown and potentially what is going to happen when we finally come out of lockdown. We're joined today by Jenny Cromack, who's the Director of Personal Training at motive8, who's going to lead the session. As ever, please ask lots of questions. You've got the Q&A button down at the bottom of your screen and the chat button if there are things you want to broadcast to everybody. I just remind you that the session is being recorded and it will be available on the UKAA website on our events page in a couple of days' time. With that, good morning again to everybody who just joined us, and I think I'll hand over to Jenny to take us through today's topic. Over to you, Jenny.
Cool, thanks, David. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for this webinar. Just a little bit of an introduction about motive8 first, just in case you've not worked with us before or you've not heard about us before. So motive8 was established in 2000, so we celebrate our 20th birthday this year. And we specialise in designing and installing gyms and spa facilities, and then right through that process to managing those facilities too. And that management can be anything from offering maintenance of the gym equipment through to running personal training sessions, classes, right through to managing those facilities with a fully staffed model of around 180 hours. So I'm responsible for the personal training department there. So today's webinar is all about looking at how lockdown has influenced exercise and nutritional habits, and also just looking at how that might change what we provide within our fitness facilities. So basically the aim of today is just to look at the current research we've got around, look at those trends and make some recommendations based upon those trends that we're seeing at the moment within the fitness industry. I think it's just key to touch on a couple of points with that. And the first is to say that the recommendations I'm going to give today aren't a one size fits all. We've got to be aware that each facility, each gym, each health club is different. It will have its own different needs. And also the recommendations that I give are based on current research. Now, depending on when gyms do reopen, that research may change and therefore the recommendations may change as well. So these are guidelines, the recommendations that we're making, but I think the main thing to really be aware of is that because things may change over the next few weeks before we can reopen, then it's really important that we're reactive to that and that we adapt to those, to any changes in trends as well, and that just as businesses, we're very agile in our approach and very adaptable as well. So you'll see from the overview of the session here that the majority of the slides I'm going to go through look at exercise levels and look at activity levels. And the reason I focus mainly on exercise is because a lot of you joining the webinar today will have facilities that you either manage, or you will have developments that have gym facilities and spa facilities on site, and you'll have a lot of residents who are really, really keen to get back into using those facilities. So I focused the majority of the session on recommendations about how we can engage with people and get them back inside those facilities when it's safe to do so. And then we'll just touch a little bit on nutrition towards the end, and then just talk about how we can build a community still whilst we're closed and still engage with residents and users of the facilities as well. Okay, so before we actually look at before we look at exercise levels during lockdown and how that might influence activity levels and exercise after lockdown, I wanted to have a look first at exercise and activity levels pre-lockdown. I just think it's important to spend a few minutes looking at this and just have an understanding of people's activity levels and what was popular. So the graph on the screen is taken from an annual survey which Sport England produce, and this looks at it's called the Active Life Survey, and it looks at adult participation in sport and exercise every year, and then we can compare the numbers year on year. The bottom line of each graph are the stats from the year November 2018 through to November 2019, so they're the most recent stats. And we're all probably aware of the figures out at the moment saying that there's a lot of people who are walking for leisure and walking for activity. But this graph shows us that there'd already been a huge increase in the last 12 months of people actually walking for leisure. So there was a 1.2 million increase of people who walked for leisure from November 18 through to November 2019 compared to the previous year. So walking was already on the increase. I think the other key points to note from this are that, interestingly, there was actually a little bit of a decrease in fitness activities. So they dropped by 1.5%. Running, athletics and multisports, so things like triathlon, duathlon, they dropped by 0.7%. And swimming had also seen a decrease of 1.2% as well. Now, obviously, it'd be interesting to see what happens with those figures post-lockdown. And during lockdown, I think we're all aware that things like running, we've definitely seen an increase in people running. Not sure if it's the same where you live, but if I go out for a walk, or indeed I go out for a run by myself, there's certainly a lot more people out and about running at the moment. So we'll be interested to see what happens post-lockdown with figures, but that's where we were sitting pre-lockdown. And then I'm sure you're all aware of the LeisureNet Solutions survey that's recently been, the results have recently been released. So the National Post-Lockdown Survey, huge sample size in this survey. And one of the questions they looked at was, before your leisure centre or gym went into lockdown, what was the main activity you participated in? So we can see that there was 44% of people went to the gym or used the fitness centres. 27.8% of people were into group exercise, and 21.7% of people enjoyed using their facilities to go swimming. So again, moving forwards, I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with these figures post-lockdown, and it'll be really interesting to see how those figures change 3 months post-lockdown, 6 months, 12 months and 24 months, and just see if there's a change in those numbers. I think the other important thing to note here as well is that I'm going to talk on the next slide about how people's habits might have changed. And whilst people's habits will have changed and have changed during lockdown, I don't think they will have changed so much that we can ignore the numbers of people who were actively using a gym, who were actively enjoying attending group exercise classes. So what we need to be mindful of is thinking about how, when we reopen, how do we re-engage with these people? How do we get those people back into group exercise, whether that's in instructor-led classes or whether it's online? How do we get those people back into using their gym so they feel confident in the cleanliness of the facilities? They just feel confident about being in there. And that's what we're going to look at as we go through these slides. So just before we do look at activity levels during lockdown, I just want to share this quote with you. Now, I'd love to say that this was a famous quote, but it's not. it's actually something that one of my friends said to me a few weeks ago. So we were just chatting about exercise and fitness. She's really struggled over the last few years of consistently fitting exercise into her weekly routine. She's always somebody who's going to start again on Monday or when work's less stressful and so on. And all of a sudden, she's now exercising 3 times a week on a regular basis, and she's really, really enjoying it. And I'd asked her what the difference was and why she felt that was. And she just came out with this quote about how lockdown has given her the opportunity to realise that habits can be broken and better habits can be created. My background is personal training, and part of your role as a personal trainer, a huge part of your role as a personal trainer, is about trying to show your clients and educate your clients about how they can create new habits that are going to help them achieve their goals. But it's also sometimes quite a difficult part of your job as a personal trainer, trying to get people to break any habits as well. And I think the difference now with lockdown is we've all been forced into new ways. We've been forced into new ways of working. We've been forced into new routines. And I think that change in routine and that being forced into that change has probably made people realise that they can then change their habits. And hopefully from a fitness point of view, it's made people realise that they can change their habits for the better, so they can have more me time, they can have more time to exercise, look after their own health and well-being, make better meals for themselves, eat better, and just prioritise themselves and prioritise their health and fitness. And I think this is something that that we really, really need to kind of hook onto and keep working with those people who might have changed their habits, because they're the people we really need to engage with to get back in to using our facilities and joining our group exercise classes. So throughout these slides, I just want you to always have this little quote in the back of your mind and be thinking about how we can work with people who might have had a change in their habits as well. So we'll move on and we'll just look at activity levels during lockdown. So there's been a couple of surveys around looking at activity levels during lockdown. You can see from both of these surveys that over 20% of people have said they've been more active during lockdown. And then the LeisureNet survey, the same post-lockdown survey, reports that 52% of people have been less active than normal. What's really important here is that we understand why people have been less active. We understand why people have been more active. And one of the things that I would really, really recommend if you manage facilities or you've got a gym facility on site, I would really, really recommend that you start surveying your residents who are using those facilities and your members who are using those facilities. Find out, for those people who are doing more exercise, why are they doing more exercise? And then look at those reasons and see what you can offer around those reasons to try to engage with them. So some people might be exercising on a more regular basis because they have realised that they don't have to go to the gym for an hour every time. They can just fit in quick 30-minute workouts. So in that case, what can you do to support that? Can you be offering short online workouts or short classes within your facilities? Can you be giving them short workouts that they can do in the gym together or indeed do at home? For those people who have become less active, it's really important that we understand why they have become less active. And again, that's why I would recommend doing some surveys. Is it because they've just got a little bit bored? They're bored of doing the workouts in the same place where they're living and the same place where they're working, and therefore they need a change of scenery. And if you've got a gym facility on site, then that convenience factor is there for them to have a break away from working at home, living at home, and then going to the gym, which will hopefully encourage footfall in there. But also it might be that they're lacking motivation. So therefore, what can you do with them to support with the motivation? Are we looking at things like offering personal training packages? How are we reaching out to those clients? So I think it's just really key that we perform those surveys and get an understanding about people's activities. What are they doing more? What are they doing less of? And why are they doing more? And why are they doing less? Sport England have also conducted another survey, and this survey looks at attitudes and behaviour towards physical activity during lockdown. There's a lot of raw data, so if you've not seen this survey, I would really recommend that you go away and analyse the data that is available. I've picked off 5 key points here, so I'll just talk you through the graph first so you have an understanding of it, and then I'll just talk you through those key points. So on each of the statements, the first blue bar is the number of people who agreed or strongly agreed with that statement, and the orange bar is, in week 1, and then the orange bar is the number of people who agreed or strongly agreed in week 7. So this survey is done on a weekly basis and looks at the trends of people's attitudes and behaviour towards physical activity on a weekly basis. The grey box, or the grey bar, is those people in week 1 who disagreed or strongly disagreed with the statement, and the yellow bar is those people in week 7 who disagreed or strongly disagreed. So for me, the really important points here are that in week 1, there was already a strong agreement from people that they had the opportunity to be physically active, that they had time to be physically active, and also that it was important for them to be exercising regularly. But then you can see that there's an upward trend in this attitude and these beliefs as well, that over the 7 weeks of lockdown, people feel they've got even more opportunity to be physically active, they've got more time to be active, and it's even more important for them to exercise. Now, that could simply be because they've got into a little bit of a better routine of working from home, if they've got children, managing family life, homeschooling, working from home, and fitting in exercise. But it's just really, really pleasant to see that there's been this increase. And again, we need to look at how we can engage with these people and keep that trend moving upwards post-lockdown as well. The last 2 statements look at how people have viewed using exercise to manage, firstly, their physical health during the outbreak of COVID-19 and manage the mental health during the outbreak as well. Now, we can see that there's not been much changes from week 1 to week 7 in how many people agreed or strongly agreed with those statements. But again, what's really nice to see is that a high number of people, so 70% of people, even in week 1, were using exercise to help them manage their physical health during the outbreak. And in week 1, 65% of people were using physical activity to help manage their mental health during the outbreak. And it's the mental health aspect of things that I'd like to touch on here. So I think we've probably either all said it ourselves, or we've probably got friends or family who've said something along the lines of, if I didn't manage to go out for a run, or I didn't manage to exercise, I'd probably go a little bit crazy during lockdown, or I wouldn't be able to cope with lockdown. I know that I have training sessions that I call my sanity sessions, which are just my chance to get out on the road, go for a run, and just forget about everything that's going on. Don't really follow a training plan as such for those sessions. I just go out and do what I need to do just to make me feel a little bit better. So I think it's really important that when gyms can reopen and when fitness facilities can reopen, we look at how we can engage with that a little bit more. So for my opinion with this, it's looking at if we're doing any type of promotions to try to get people back into using the gyms, or we're looking at promotions to try and get new users into using the gyms. It's not just about how somebody looks, it's not just about how strong somebody is, but it's about how good exercise makes you feel. Even a short amount of exercise makes you feel amazing. And I think with any type of promotions, any type of communications we're doing with people, we really need to hook on to that. The other thing as well with the mental health side of things is looking at the classes that we provide. Pre-lockdown, we had already started seeing high numbers of people attending holistic based classes, so things like yoga, Pilates, meditation style sessions. And I believe that there will continue to be a rise in these classes post lockdown. We know that there's been a lot of engagement with people doing online yoga, online meditation during lockdown. We've, about 2 weeks after lockdown, we launched our own online, our own online classes where people can either attend live classes or they can view the classes later and do them in their own time. And yoga and meditation are definitely two of our most popular classes, whether it's on demand or whether it's actually attending the live classes. So moving forwards, when facilities can reopen, I think it's really important that you're looking at your holistic offering. Are you offering yoga classes, meditation, Pilates, and even pre-opening? If you don't have any online facilities already, maybe start looking at how you can offer some of these online classes as well. It's a really, really good way of starting to re-engage with people before you reopen. So I'm just going to look at one more slide to do with activity types during lockdown. And again, this is the Sports England survey, the one which looks at physical activity levels on a week by week basis. So we can see from this graph or from this chart that there's been a 6% of people walking as part of their activity levels. There's only been a 2% of people a 2% increase of people running or jogging. Again, just based on the number of people I see out there running, I would have expected that to be a little bit higher. Cycling has doubled from 8% to 16%. But I think what's interesting is if you look at these figures, there's actually been a decline in home activity. So the not viewed activity is just somebody doing a workout at home by themselves. So their personal trainer, or they might have downloaded something off the internet and they're just doing the workout in their own time. And then the viewed might be a YouTube workout. It might be an online class that their gym's providing, or an online session with their personal trainer. But both of these areas have seen a decrease. Now, if like us, you offer an online solution for fitness at the moment through on-demand classes, what I don't think we need to do is panic and go, oh my goodness, there's been a decrease in this, we need to stop offering these, or when we reopen, we shouldn't offer online. I personally think that you need a hybrid of online and instructor-led classes, and the instructor-led element will really depend on the size of the facility and the size of the studio you have available. I think the decrease in numbers of the home activity could be down to some really, really simple factors. So it could be that up until yesterday, we've had some glorious weather. So people have been more inclined to get out on the bikes or go for a walk or go running. It could be simply the Joe Wicks effect, where on week one, he started with over 1 million people watching his videos, and now he's down to the hundreds of thousands of people. And that could have simply impacted some of those figures. So there might be some simple and justifiable explanations around there. But I think what we really, really need to be aware of with this is that motivation could be playing a really, really key factor in that decline in numbers. So there's been a 6% drop overall of home activity. And I think with that in mind, we need to look at 3 areas with this. So we need to look at the gym, we need to look at classes, and we need to look at personal training. I already briefly touched about it before, but sometimes people need that separation of going somewhere else to do their workout. So whilst working out at home is brilliant because it's really convenient, and if you're a little bit time poor, you can just squeeze in a workout, that's fab. Doing that time and time again, day after day, week after week, working out in those same 4 walls where you're having your meals, you're working every day, you're spending time with your family, does get a little bit monotonous. So I think that when gyms can reopen, people will really welcome that with open arms, because it will give them a change of scenery of where they need to work out, and we'll see an increase in motivation levels. And if you have gym facilities on site, then you know you're kind of killing two birds with one stone, because you've got that change of scenery, but you've also got the convenience factor as well for people. And I think also research is showing us that there probably will be a change in trends with this. Towards the mid or end of April, YouGov did a survey, and 62% of people at that time said they felt uncomfortable returning to the gym. However, the LeisureNet Solutions survey, which we talked about earlier, has shown that 88% of people have said they would use their gyms either the same or more when they're due to reopen. And I think that shift in attitudes is probably due to people maybe just feeling a little bit bored of working out at home as well. The other thing, looking at the motivation side of things, is personal training. Now, I believe that there could be an increase in personal training when gyms can reopen again. I think that will come down to two main reasons. So one of them will be linking back to one of the slides we talked about earlier. It'll be linking back to those 52% of people who've become less active. So they may have been quite active before, they may have been highly motivated individuals, and then all of a sudden during lockdown something's happened that's changed those motivation levels, and they've stopped exercising as much as they used to do. Those people might be inclined to work with a personal trainer to help them get their motivation levels back up, to help them find the fitness mojo again and just get them back on track a little bit. So I would be really recommending that you're looking at doing maybe short 4 to 6 week restart packages with people from a personal training point of view. And those personal training sessions could be face to face, but if you're worried about social distancing or the size of your facilities don't allow that, then you can still do your personal training online and get really, really good results. I think personal training will also be popular because I think you will find that there's a lot of people who've used lockdown to start being active, people who were never active before or not very active, and they're really enjoying it. They're really enjoying being active, but they've hit a little bit of a plateau because they've only got a limited amount of knowledge of what they can achieve. And I think those people, again, will look for the advice and the expertise of a personal trainer to help them take their training up to the next level and help them just see more results. So again, you need to be thinking about, if you're doing any promotions around personal training, how do those promotions look so we can engage with those people. And then the motivation levels, the final thing I wanted to speak around that would be classes as well. Group exercise is hugely popular, and in the LeisureNet Solutions survey that was conducted, over 40% of people said that one of the things they missed the most about going to the gym was the motivation from the class instructors and the fitness instructors. So I think people will be looking for that motivation again when gyms can reopen. They'll be looking for that motivation from the team to help them get back into that fitness routine. Obviously that might be a little bit logistically harder to manage because you're going to need to look at class numbers and how many people can attend those classes. And that's why for me it's really, really important that we have that blend of online classes and instructor-led classes, so that if we've got to reduce our class numbers in those instructor-led classes, we can still give people the option of doing those classes either live or on demand in their own time at home. I think the other important factor about still offering some on-demand classes and live classes that people can do at home is that whilst we're being told that a lot of people will come back and use the gym, I think there'll still be a percentage of people who might not feel very comfortable. They might not feel very comfortable being around people. They might be concerned about hygiene standards, social distancing, and we need to give that freedom and flexibility to people that if they don't feel comfortable coming back into the gym, that we can still engage with them, and the way to do that is through the online and on-demand classes. So I'm just going to look, I've just got a few more slides to go through. So these are my post-lockdown predictions. Some of them we have talked about already, so I'll just quickly go through them. So the gym, people are missing it. I think that the gyms will be popular again. People will come back in. In addition to those 40% or 45% of people we talked about who are missing the motivation from instructors, 30% of people are actually missing the social aspect of coming to the gym as well. So again, we can look at how we can use that to engage with people coming into the facilities. One of the things I want to touch on with using the gym is new members and new people. So 27% of people who haven't been a member of a gym before have said that post-lockdown they would consider joining a gym. Now, bearing this in mind, they're going to be new to the gym environment. They might have had concerns about joining the gym before because they were just a little bit nervous about joining a gym. So we're going to have to consider our customer journey, our induction process with them. How do we make them feel as comfortable as possible when there's all of these other things going on, like social distancing measures, and making sure that we're keeping the safe places hygienic and as clean as possible as well. So you really need to pay attention to what your induction and customer journey process looks like. And also with the new people, we need to consider how do we keep engaging with those so that after they've been a member for 2-3 months, that their attendance doesn't drop off again. So I've talked about personal training. The key thing for me there is that I think we need to look at how we package personal training and really tap into people who need a little bit of a kickstart with their training again, or those new people who have recently started exercise and need the experience and expertise of a trainer to help elevate their training. If we just go to the other side of the screen for now and just look at classes, one other thing to say about the holistic classes is one of the reasons I think classes like yoga and Pilates and meditation will be popular is not just from the mental well-being point of view, which is hugely important, but also from a point of view of when you go to a yoga or Pilates class, it's very minimal equipment. We can do a really good yoga class with a mat often, or a Pilates class with a mat. We might need a little bit more equipment like a bolster or a block. But because we're in our own little pod, almost our own little space, and we've just got minimal equipment, I think psychologically people will feel safer in those class environments from a social distancing point of view, and also from a hygiene point of view. So I think if we bear that in mind, we can transfer that across to some of our other classes. So those instructor-led classes, let's use minimal equipment in those classes, or let's use no equipment at all. Let's not have circuits running around the room or people having to move from station to station. Let's give each person their own little pod to work in, give them the equipment they need, and try to minimise that interaction across the room with other members to enhance those social distancing measures. So I think from instructor-led classes, I'm very aware that the numbers will really be dependent on size of the facilities, and therefore some places might not even be able to keep instructor-led classes going because it's just not feasible for how many people they could fit in a class. But if you can, let's work with minimal equipment and minimal movement around the room. Couple of other points, shorter workouts. We've seen an increase in popularity of shorter workouts anyway over the last few years, certainly from the online platform that we've developed for during lockdown. Our 15-minute and 30-minute workouts are the most popular workouts on that platform. And I think people need to be reminded that they don't have to be slogging it out in the gym for hours and hours to get results. So I would certainly be encouraging your members and your gym users to be using effective shorter workouts. If you've got outdoor space, let's use that as well. People will feel more comfortable exercising outdoors. We can already do small group training outside. If you can take any of your classes outside, that might help you with numbers and capacity levels in those classes, as long as you can maintain those social distance elements. PT outside as well. So if you can work that into how you're going to operate when you open, I would recommend looking at outdoor fitness. And then family fitness as well. We know that there's been a rise of families working out together to the Joe Wicks PE sessions. I certainly see more people going out running with their children where I live. So if you have a facility where you've got a high volume of families, then I would be looking at how you can engage with those people and bring some family fitness sessions into your facilities as well. So that's the exercise section done. I'm just going to spend a little bit of time looking at the nutritional habits. We've just got this slide and another slide to go. So with the nutritional habits, on the screen here is just a few things that we've seen changing during lockdown in regards to people's nutrition habits. Again, it's just about bearing these in mind and looking at how we can bearing these in mind and looking at how we can use these to engage with our users a little bit more. So people are doing, we call it in the north the big shop, or people might know it as the weekly shop. Obviously we've been restricted about how we can go into supermarkets, so people have been going out and doing their weekly shops instead, which has probably led to better planning, less waste, people eating healthier. If people don't have many ingredients at home, perhaps just being more creative with what they're cooking. We're certainly eating less on the go because we're not going to work, so we're not grabbing lunch as we go to work. We're having more homemade meals at home. There's been an increase in online shopping, and that's not just with supermarkets, but people using local greengrocers for things like fruit and veg box, uses local suppliers and independent traders as well for other food deliveries and food services. And then we've seen an increase in family meal times and people doing things like baking as well. So the key thing for me here with the nutrition side of things is looking at, okay, how can we engage with this? So during lockdown, let's put out healthy recipes and put healthy meal ideas out to our residents. After lockdown, are there independents and local greengrocers who we can work with to offer a service delivery to our residents? Can we link up with food prep services, so your healthy food prep services, and have them come directly to our facilities as well? Is there any ways that we can engage with people by doing things like webinars about cooking, or webinars about nutrition in general? And if we're doing those webinars about nutrition in general, do we have the expertise within our fitness teams to run those webinars? If we don't, then let's get a nutritionist in who we work with. Will there be an increase in people looking at diet plans, looking at nutritional plans? I dare say yes, there probably will be, but people are so fascinated by nutrition, and people change from diet to diet and approach to approach that we're probably always going to see a bit of a change with those anyway. But yeah, I think with nutrition, it's about how we can look at those extra services we offer to our residents and gym users so that we can really engage with them. And then my final slide is then looking at how we can engage with people now. So for me, the gym is a community, and certainly if we have a residential facility, the gym should be an extension of somebody's home. And people love feeling like they belong. Let's go back to those stats from before. 30% of people miss the social element of going to the gym. So just because the gym's closed doesn't mean we've forgotten about our users, and doesn't mean that we shouldn't be engaging with them. So we should be doing things like posting regular workouts, recipes, healthy tips, and so on. We should be putting blogs and articles out there about health and well-being, considering running things like virtual competitions and virtual races. So we ran a competition where we did a virtual duathlon, and people could get a medal at the end. looking at running monthly or weekly fitness or nutrition challenges, and also looking at webinars. You know, we're seeing this increase of people walking, cycling, running, and we want to make sure we engage with those so that when the gyms can reopen, they want to come back and work with us. They don't want, well, we want them to still be active outside, but we want them to use the gyms as well. So what can we be doing to engage with those people now? Let's start doing, can we link up with local running clubs to run webinars first? Do we have the expertise within our fitness teams to run webinars about running gait, for example, or the correct walking gait, or the correct setup on your bike? So I think whilst gyms are closed, there's still a lot we can be doing to engage with people. And just really, really trying to make them feel part of that community so that when we reopen, they're chomping at the bit, basically, to come back and use the facilities. So that's the webinar complete. Thank you for listening. So I'm welcome to take any questions now, if anybody has any questions.
Jenny, can you see the question we have from Kimberly?
I'm just trying to get it onto my screen, sorry.
That's all right. For everybody else, the question is, how has COVID-19 changed the way that Motive8 design and consult gym spaces and equipment, particularly in the build-to-rent fitness studios?
So we're obviously just working with the guidelines that are around from UK Active, SimSpa and so on, and we're looking at how we need to change the layouts of gyms. Do we need to be removing equipment? Do we need to be putting certain bits of equipment out of order so that we can work within those social distancing guidelines? Each facility that we work with is very, very different. So we're just trying to, for those people who need the support and advice, we're trying to work with them individually and guide them the best we can, but based on their facility and their requirements, because obviously each space will be different and each facility will be different as well. If you are looking, Kimberly or anybody else who's part of this webinar, if you're looking for more information about that, then my colleague Rob is dealing with those areas. So you can take my email at the end and then you can drop me a line if you like, and I can pass you on to Rob and he can help you with that.
I think the other thing I'd add is that Rob's running a webinar, I think, in later this month or beginning in July, and I'm sure we'll touch on those topics then.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Okay. Do we have any more questions? If not, perhaps, Jenny, I could ask you one, which is really, I mean, what we've seen in your presentation is a lot of work on psychology, surveys and things like that. What are the questions that people should be asking their residents to learn most to help them reopen their gyms and spaces? And you're advocating people ask surveys as a key thing. What questions would you recommend asking?
So I would be looking at simply, do you feel comfortable about using the facility once we reopen? If they don't feel comfortable and have any concerns, what are those concerns? So if you do your survey and, for example, the hygiene levels come up there as categorised quite high in responses, then you know you need to be communicating with your residents about what policies and what risk assessments and what processes you've got in place to make sure those facilities are clean and the hygiene levels are maintained at a high standard. I'd also be looking at reasons why people have, well, finding out about their activity levels first. Have they been more active? Have they been less active? Find out why they've been more active and find out or why they've been less active, and find out what type of activities they're doing. Because if you find that there's a high response to people running, we know that people haven't been able to get inside facilities to work, and therefore running just might be a little bit, they might run because it's a more convenient thing to do. But we might find that a high proportion of those people have actually really, really enjoyed running, and all of a sudden they might want to go out running, and not come back and use our facilities. And we want to make sure those facilities are well used, obviously with social distancing in mind. So we need to look at how we can still continue to engage with those people, which is why then I think looking at offering other workshops is really important. So asking local running clubs to come in, or working with your instructors to do something like a gait analysis workshop. When social distancing measures start to relax a little bit, maybe looking at putting some running clubs, walking clubs on. But I think the key thing is understanding why people are exercising more or indeed less, and what they've been doing. Because if there's a real trend in things that people are enjoying, to me it makes sense to then start looking at how we can offer those in the facilities so that we keep engaging with those people as well. And likewise, if we find that people haven't been exercising as much and it simply is a motivation factor, then what can we do to get those people back on track with their training? Is that where we're looking at personal training packages, or is that looking at how we just engage with those people overall?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Jenny. We have, I think we've got another question from Kimberly. If you can you see that one?
Yeah. Do you know, I don't think the value and demand of personal training.
Useful to read out the question, because I don't think that the attendees can see it. So.
Sorry.
No, by all means, if you want to read it out.
Yeah, so sorry. Kimberly's question is, with the virtual demand increasing and platforms such as YouTube and Nike offering workouts and plans, do you feel that the value and demand of personal trainers will decline? I actually don't think they will. I might be a bit biased because I used to be a personal trainer, but I think the difference of having a personal trainer is that bond and that relationship you build up with them. And whilst the home workouts are great, you know, we wouldn't have developed our own online platform if we didn't see some value behind it. So whilst the online and on-demand platforms are great to a degree, there's not as much personal interaction there, and you've still got to ultimately motivate yourself to do that training session. Whereas if you've created an appointment with your personal trainer, it's in your diary, you're going to turn up and you're going to do that session, and then you've got this whole relationship and the bond with the personal trainer that again is another level of why you will keep motivated. And that trainer just gets to know you in a lot more detail, really, can bespoke your training plans, can give you nutritional advice, and really help you get those results you're looking for. And those results aren't necessarily always about how you look, it might just be about that feel good factor as well. I also think with personal training that, and this is just from talking to people, but I also feel that people might almost feel a little bit safer training with a personal trainer. So if I go into a gym and I'm working out by myself when gyms can reopen again, even if gyms have the really good social distancing measures in place, and they've got the really good kind of walkways in place and the one-way systems and so on in place, I'm still reliant on trusting those users that they're following those procedures. Whereas if I turn up and I book my session with my personal trainer, and again, it's similar to that class example I used of working out in your little pod, I think people will almost just feel a little bit more protected that they're just working out with their trainer, they're in their little area that they're working, they've just got their kit they need for the session, they don't really have to interact with anybody else. The trainer's practicing all of the social distancing requirements and the hygiene requirements, and I think that will create a little bit more confidence with people booking personal training sessions.
Okay, I think that's a very comprehensive answer. Right, it's 10 to 11. Do we have any final questions for Jenny? Okay, looks like not. So Jenny, I would just like to say thank you. I actually found that a really interesting session, particularly to focus on psychology and on what people are actually thinking about this and how to get people motivated. I think it's very easy for us to talk about the physicality, the physical attributes of gyms and the difficulties in there, but I think focus on the psychology, on the way we get to deal with potential with clients coming back is really, really important.
Yeah.
I would reiterate though, if people want to find out more about the physical side of things and planning, then Jenny's colleague Rob will be running a webinar later this month or beginning of next month. On that note, though, I will say our next UKAA webinar is next week, where Paddock, one of the PropTech members, are, I think, leading a session on talking about technology and building communities, a very popular theme. But apart from that, I'd just like to thank all of you for attending. I'd like to thank Jenny particularly for a wonderful solo effort. I'm not sure how you kept talking for so long, but it's good, and some really interesting slides. And then just a reminder that the slides and the recording will be available on the UKAA website shortly. So thank you once again, and look forward to seeing you all soon. Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.